Thank you for being here today. We're going to be talking about accelerating digital adoption at Air Force Research Labs, reducing toil and fostering efficiency. And I'm honored to share the stage with Tauf Chowdhury and Sean Westfall here from AFRL. And I'm going to have you guys do a little bit more of an introductory brief, deeper dive into what you guys do at AFRL. But first, I wanted to tell a very quick personal story about ServiceNow and AFRL. I've been with the company for a little over 8 years. My name is Adam Prem. I run the mission solutions for defense for global public sector. So we work with not only US DoD, but also the defense organizations globally. I joined ServiceNow 8 years ago as a solution consultant supporting the Navy. I'm based out of San Diego, and it was about 4 months into the job where my boss called me up because I was the only SC that wasn't in the Beltway, and he needed a demonstration and a technical discussion in Albuquerque supporting AFRL. And I was still trying to learn the platform, but it was kind of like, hey, would you mind just your quicker flight and we can save some money if you do it? And I think he was also testing me by fire. So jump in, do a demonstration on ITSM, software asset management, SPM, and the interlinkages between the three. And I get into the space, and it was auditorium style, 200-seat thing, and probably a third of them were filled. So imagine my anxiety having to do that. But it was an awesome conversation. I gained a ton of respect for AFRL folks because they really leaned in. They had a lot of intelligent questions, trying to understand the platform. And I left going, these guys get it. They understand sort of the value of the entire platform, not just products. So with that, thank you guys again for being here. Just in 30 seconds or less, maybe just give a bit of a deeper dive into AFRL and what you're doing from a digital transformation perspective at ServiceNow, starting with Tauf.
Sure, yeah. So my name's Tauf Chowdhury. When I joined AFRL, it was about 1.5 years ago, and ServiceNow was being implemented in pockets. And it was pretty interesting because it's such a broad enterprise platform that it was interesting to see how different parts of AFRL, the directorates, were actually implementing it on their own in silos, but doing the same thing. So when you think of Toil, if you think of the repetitive nature of Toil, there was a lot of it going on just within the ServiceNow space, right? There's 4 or 5 different directorates, all implementing ServiceNow. There's choice words that I had that I won't repeat since this is being recorded, but that was my kind of first foray into ServiceNow ecosystem right here at AFRL. Broader than that, though, I was brought in by the new CIO and the first CIO of AFRL, Ms. Alexis Bonnell, and her remit was to reduce toil and introduce digital capabilities and using them efficiently across not just AFRL, but also how do we become the innovation hub for all of the DAF, right? All of Air Force. So how do we keep that culture of experimentation and innovation that the lab is, and inject that into enterprise capabilities such as ServiceNow. And so now, 1.5 years later, we are almost spearheading the DAF's hopes and prayers around consolidation. And we're trying to do that on our own by creating a multi-tenant enterprise platform for ServiceNow, but let the directorates kind of operate on their own and give them their autonomy as well. And we have some folks here from some of the directorates that you can talk to as well. And aside from just ServiceNow and the platform, enterprise capability-wise, we're looking at portfolio management, program management, customer service and CRM, things that you don't really associate with the government sometimes, like around customer service management and CRM, we found some actual valuable use cases around that. So we're looking at digitizing those. So anything to add there?
Sean?
Yeah, Sean Westfall. So I've been a civilian for about 3 years, and about 2 years ago, came over the help desk. And at that time, we were replacing a homegrown tool, ticketing tool that was really just used by internal support as a way for them to log tickets and kind of sign them between teams. At that time, ServiceNow was brought on, and we stood up ITSM, as most companies that find their way into ServiceNow start with that and kind of grow from there. So we've come quite a long way in 1.5 years, as initially just a way to track trouble tickets and change requests for our division, and it's turned into an enterprise offering where the other directorates can really kind of explore and kind of see what ServiceNow is about without them having to take it on themselves. So it's been a fun journey so far.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, take us back, right, call it 2 years ago. What were the challenges that AFRL was seeing that, I guess was the catalyst for, we have ticketing systems, but we need something better, we need something, easier for, end user consumption. What were the decisions that kind of went into looking into a platform like ServiceNow? We'll start with Sean.
Yeah, so again, homegrown tool,
Yeah.
really just used for support. There's no metrics, there's no reporting. The customer can't go in and see what the status of their ticket is. They don't even know if somebody's working on it. Whereas now with the Employee Center, you can go and see the status of your tickets, kind of what, if feedback is needed from you, where it's at in the process of being filled. And before, where everything just kind of filtered through one group, now we've got specific workflows where the tasks are farmed out to the teams that actually do the work rather than passing it among each other. So that's been an initial thing that we've taken advantage of for sure.
Yeah, that's great. The number one competitor I would say when I was servicing for the Navy is either homegrown systems or Excel spreadsheets and email, and doing business that way. So it wasn't so much that you had a tool, but it wasn't, again, you weren't getting the metrics out of it, and you need something a little more powerful. Tauf, you mentioned AFRL is sort of seen as the innovation center for the DAF, right? Maybe tell me a little bit more. Obviously, you've got research labs in the title, so I can assume that a lot of high tech, very smart people. But how did it become sort of this innovation center for the Air Force?
I think specific to ServiceNow, one of the things we did is, if you think back to what I was talking about with the silos and the different instances, the reason for that is there was individual kind of licensing, contracting, and then on the services side, that was individual as well. And so the way we really turned the ServiceNow program into this agile kind of innovative center of excellence is by streamlining that, right? And I think those of you in this room can appreciate it. If you're not, you can't. When you're in government, you know about contracting and programs and funding, and then repeat for service, repeat that for licensing, right? And so one of the things we did is we're consolidating all the licensing into one contract with ServiceNow so that when a director comes to us and says, hey, we need to spin up a proof of concept for CSM quickly, we can procure licenses and spin it up without having to go through a 60-day contracting cycle. Similarly, with the hours, what we did with our implementer is instead of contracting each project that we do, one of the things we did is that we just, for the fiscal year, bought a bucket of hours that are the equivalent of 4 or 5 FTEs that we can use and flex on depending on our needs. So right now, as an example, we have something being built in App Engine. We have an ITSM implementation for 2 or 3 directorates. We have SPM, CSM, and HRSD, all happening in parallel with different teams from the implementation team. But we were able to spin those teams up in 2 weeks' time, launch the workshops and kickoffs, get people engaged, and answer the call when our customers used to come to us and say, oh, here we come to DCD, which is our name internally, and they say, we asked for something, and it's like, see you in a year, right? Where now it's, you can come to us and say, oh, you guys don't have a solution, and I'll come back to you and say, how quickly can you spin up a team? You need to dedicate your team and commit your team to working with us. We'll have our team ready to go. So now we've kind of flipped the script and become super agile and rapid development when it comes to releases.
Yeah, I think that's so important from a partnership perspective. This idea of allow your partners to get you over the hump, get you going. But ultimately, it's just as much as in ServiceNow as in your best interest and the partner's best interest to eventually hand the keys over to you. And if you have the developer ecosystem that you have grown organically throughout your organization, man, that's powerful. And that sets you up for a big success, I think, in the future. So good on you on that one. We talked a little bit about the products that you guys are using. Obviously, it started with ITSM. What are some of the other aspects being looked at? App Engine as well. Are you looking into ITOM or service operations or anything there?
Recently stood up ITOM, so now we can associate hardware with the individual users and kind of be able to see, if there's existing issues that they have, But instead of asking the user questions, all that's presented to the support analyst right there, and they can start to take action and fix the problems.
Yep. I think everyone in this room, if you're familiar with the CMDB, right, that unlocks the value of ServiceNow, right? So if you establish a good CMDB, and you can do that through discovery, a lot of our customers, honestly, on the Navy side, from the ones that are a little less mature and haven't implemented discovery yet, you can import your CMDB if you have it in a spreadsheet. But getting that CMDB in place is so important, I think, to the growth of ServiceNow over time.
I think extending the CMDB with, we're tinkering around right now. We're talking to one of our directorates that does a lot of human performance testing, and they need a way to track cadavers and mannequins and body parts and sensors and things like that. And we're like, hey, why not use asset management? If you can barcode it, let's try that as a use case. So it's something, that's an example of something that we can spin up quickly and do a proof of concept and see if it works for them. So it's a conversation we couldn't have a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I think that's right, again, that's why we call digital transformation a journey, right? It starts somewhere, but it takes iterations and years, right? Because ServiceNow can do so many things, but it's like, and the account teams are always, in the partner ecosystem is positioned to say, what's most important now? What is your critical business issue now? And you've got a platform to roll out new capability for years and years and years to come. So definitely a journey.
Yeah, and one of the business processes that we digitized, we're in the process of building right now and rolling out is called SMPR, which is a security and policy review process. So our public affairs team, both at the Department of the Air Force level and at AFRL, have a process where the scientists, the things that gives them joy is to publish their research, right? And when you're working with the DoD, sometimes that could be a bear. And right now, the manual process that we identified that they have is it involves an archaic system that they're sunsetting, email, phone calls, smoke signals, what have you, right? To get their publications through a process where it goes through approvals and the right checks and balances so that they can go and speak publicly on their research. And that process, we identified that we could actually automate within like 95% of it within ServiceNow, but we had to build it in App Engine. So we have our implementer spinning up a team to quickly build that application, and now the DAF were building their own, but they saw what we were doing and pumped the brakes on theirs, and they just want to adopt ours. So what we're doing at AFRL, again, being the center of innovation, we're doing the development on AFRL instances, but then we're going to be lifting and shifting it for production when the DAF is ready to use it over to one of the Air Force instances that can host it for us.
I think that's a really interesting concept, and I wanted to kind of geek out with you guys a bit, because when we were prepping for the call, we talked about a multi-instance sort of solution. I can tell you that not only from a DoD perspective, but also from a global defense perspective, I'm seeing a ton of demand and asks around, how do I get my instance to talk to your instance? Even if it's in the same organization like the Air Force. But from a CJAD, C2 perspective, I'm getting a lot of questions around Air Force. I'd like some data on the Navy side, and Navy needs to send some information to Army. So we're talking a lot about this multi-instance sort of ecosystem. But tell me about how that's working out at AFRL and why you have the multi-instance challenge and how that came to be.
Yeah, so I think each of the directorates, they have their own budget line from Congress. They have their own IT shops as well. They have their own support and operation shops. So for them, ITSM can be unique from one instance to another. So some of the directors that have their own instances have different implementations and workflows when it comes to ITSM. And we didn't want to mess with their business processes or process flows. And they wouldn't like us very much if we did that anyway, so we let them be, right? But we also had this appetite for directorates that didn't want the operational overhead of maintaining their own ServiceNow instance. So we introduced the concept of an enterprise platform that would be multi-tenant. So it would allow us to onboard directorates as they wanted to. All they would have to do is pay for the licenses for the first year, and then we'd absorb the cost going forward. And once they were onboarded, we can introduce modules that they needed, such as ITSM, but also things like HRSD, SPM, things that are enterprise processes we want to host on that enterprise instance. And the thing that we feel will tie all of that together is a tool called, that's built on the instance data replication. It's called Service Bridge. And it comes with the CSM, TPSM, whatever letters you want to pick. Just you'll probably be right if you throw it out there. But so based on that, we can host centrally on an enterprise scale the modules that we need. And then for those service requests, we can publish those out to the instances that need them. So from a user experience, they don't need to log into multiple ServiceNow instances. They don't need to know, oh, for enterprise stuff, I need to go here. They know that they go to their own portal, whether they're in a directorate or where they're an enterprise customer, and they log in and they see the same service requests that everyone else sees, but all the work is being done centrally on the enterprise multi-tenant instance.
Yeah, and I think I would love to hear, everyone else's, there goes my notes, observations or experience with multi-instance. I was having a conversation today with someone that said they have a split instance solution because of data classification rights. So they have their operational, how we run the business of our organization in one instance, but then they've got their sort of mission-related use case data on another. And I think that was self-hosted too, but occasionally, right, they will see opportunities to, I would like to share some data back and forth. And using Service Bridge and other things like that, there's a remote process sync. And it's funny, there's a lot of different ways to integrate instances, but there's always a recommended way based on what you need to do. Mm-hmm. So what are the big kind of key wins that you've seen from an ITSM and ITOM? I know it's only been a year and a half, but hopefully, advanced metrics, are you able to kind of predictive analysis around systems in the IT space that might go down or things like that? Tell me a little bit about the big wins that have come out so far.
Yeah, to be honest with you, there's more data than we can handle. We've got a pretty streamlined small team, but that's why today's been exciting, just seeing the capabilities with AI. I think that's kind of our next level of to kind of take all this data and make sense of it, whether it be the feedback responses from the end user community, or taking some of our incident history and turning it into knowledge-based documents without somebody having the job of sitting down there and writing it, just because we don't have the resources to allow for that. So that's been a lot of fun today, just seeing how the different companies have taken advantage.
And I think it's just the tip of the iceberg, honestly. I mean, you guys know, AI for us rolled out about a year ago. It's been years and years of acquisitions and getting the plumbing correct on our platform. So we weren't really surprised by the AI movement. We were actually well positioned for it. But what you're seeing, looking to the crowd, what you're seeing now is really just the tip of the iceberg as far as what we're doing. Every business unit, every product is being asked to look at the generative AI and understand new use cases for how they can apply it to their products. So really exciting time. Sean, I want to go back to the low to no code and the development that you guys are doing on App Engine. How has that gone? How hard was it to train sort of your citizen development ecosystem? And maybe talk a little bit about, if you could, just the governance around it, right? Because when I was talking with the Navy, there's a lot of, I wouldn't say hesitancy, but it's a little bit of, we love the idea of people allowing our employees to create applications, but we also don't want 5 people creating the same application and us not knowing about it. So there's a governance layer to it. But what kind of things are you seeing from a low to no code development perspective at AFRL?
Yeah, some of that we've been kind of learning as we go, start to build that framework. But yeah, it is low code. It's not no code. You still kind of need to know what you're doing.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
But obviously can push that out if somebody wants to innovate and try something new, put it in our enterprise instance and model it for the other directorates. Our product owner, unfortunately, couldn't make it today, but she's kind of working with the different directorates to see what their needs are, what they're out there doing, and just kind of getting everybody to talk together. Just because we are siloed, everybody has their individual missions, which is most important. But our spot is the DCD to try to model that for everybody and get everybody talking together. So
yeah,
I think we're seeing the need for a platform for citizen development, and that really got introduced with DAF 365, which is the Office implementation,
sure, yeah.
That opens up all the tools, and they're like, hey, go forth, but there's no governance or anything, right, or guardrails. So what happens is someone very smart at a lab will develop a tool, and then it'll be surprise, enterprise, like you need to now support it for 50 people. and there was no prep time, there's no lead time. How do we sustain this going forward, right? So now what we really liked with App Engine is that it has that framework with App Studio built in where we can actually create approval workflows and governance and guardrails so that you can open it up to the citizen developer, but before they promote code or anything, it has to go through at least some checks and balances and at least be informational for us to know that it's coming or know that it's something popular, you know?
Yeah.
And then I want to give a shout out to the RVRD Directorate folks that are here. Hi, guys. Their chief actually pushed ServiceNow to make some changes with all the different instance architecture that we have going to modify the App Store so that it can be a central app store where all of the instance owners can upload applications that they build in App Engine to kind of an AFRL app store that other instances can then download onto their instances if they want. Or if a directorate built something that could be enterprise, they could upload it to the store. We could download it on the enterprise instance and make it available for everyone.
I've seen that exact use case at the Navy too. They were pursuing that need, right? Because you've got this ecosystem of great developers, and honestly, you know, I'm sure the Air Force is the same. In the Navy, you just need the capability, and you guys it's so spread out that, like, you know, I want to use what you guys built, right? So as long as you're licensed for it, why are you taking time to build it, right? And so I think it's
we're greedy. So our next push to ServiceNow is to open it up for all of DoD, like a marketplace for DoD ServiceNow, so that we could share apps across Army, Navy, AFRL, research labs, you know.
Love that. Yep, we need that. I want to leave some time for Q&A, just a couple more questions here. What are the key success metrics that you guys are kind of measuring yourself on? I know a lot of times, it's easy to, we claim success, but then they say, well, show me your dollars and, savings, or show me time spent, or how you sped things up. Are you guys capturing metrics from a mission-related perspective?
One of the things from a program standpoint is we're building our kind of service catalog right now. Mm-hmm. So the number of items that we're getting into our idea and demand pipeline, we want to see that increase across the directorates, and that's a good indicator for us to see the level of trust increase in the central. I call it like the shared services group, which is the DCD. We're the enterprise IT group. So the more people that come to us with ideas and demands, that means we're doing something right, and we're gaining trust that they rely on us to give them support. The other thing, specifically with the SMPR, right? Some of the metrics that we captured is we were going to save around $10 million a year in manual work. So it's about reducing toil. It was reducing about 10 FTEs worth of man hours per business unit that we approach for the PA process. So we're looking at it more from a toil and business impact, right? For now, and then I think once all the IT systems get spun up and we have consolidated reporting, we can then report up to the CIO as far as overall like IT health dashboards and things like that.
Yeah, I've noticed that if you're providing a service and you demonstrate that you provide it well with hard metrics, your budgets grow because you're needed. And usually leadership is like, well, they're doing a good job. Let's make sure that they're positioned for success. So.
And we have to, because our directorate, the enterprise directorate, we're a tax on the technical directorates. So the technical directorates are bringing in the money. We're taking a percentage of that tax money and using it to provide them services. And if we're not giving them what they feel they are paying for, they're not going to be happy, right? So we need to make it worthwhile.
Another big win for us has been eliminating duplication of tools. So we've got a tool that software developers use to track their user stories, their development, and that was kind of the only purpose of that tool. But obviously with ServiceNow, we can leverage the same license and functionality where that other tool is no longer needed. So that's been a huge win for us.
You're doing app rationalization in-house. That's pretty awesome.
And our CIO launched a kill bonus. She's she loves the kill bonus, which is if you're eliminating tools or if you're eliminating any technologies that are redundant, then you get something that makes you happy.
Go on. What are those things? No, that's great. That's really interesting. You'd love to see that give it back to the employees model. Tauf, we didn't get into it, but your background, right? You have a history with AWS, Google, high technology, companies. How was that transition for you when you came into AFRL? What kind of lessons learned did you bring from those companies into AFRL?
Yeah, and I've worked in the Fed space back in like 2012 as well, so I had a little bit of exposure. So I was expecting something completely different when I came to AFRL, which was a lot slower and a lot more red tape, government stuff. But I was surprised because when I was at Google, I ran a digital transformation team, and one of the things that a lot of our customers wanted is to be more like Google. And one of the tenets that we had was providing people with psychological safety and the ability to fail without being chastised for it, failing fast and then learning and moving ahead. And I actually found that organically happens at the lab at AFRL. So it inspired me to then introduce some of the more aggressive concepts around streamlining contracting and licensing and doing parallel work with multiple teams, but empowering them with the people, because I was like, hey, these guys could take it. There's some companies, like a chocolate company I worked with when I was at Google, we talked about doing this stuff, and they were like, we've been making candy bars for 100 years, and like, we can't do what you just said. But AFRL, everyone is, yeah, we could do it, let's go. So that's what really inspired me to then, put my foot down to the gas and just say, hey, let's go. Like, we'll implement all of this, right? Like, we'll do it in a year and a half. And so here we are.
And that brings me to my last question before we open it up for Q&A. But Sean, you talk about the roadmap, right? What's next for AFRL on the platform? We talked a little bit about potentially looking at Gen AI. I think we're getting going with SPM and other things. What if you had a roadmap that you could share with us? What do you think the next couple of years might look like for ServiceNow use at AFRL?
Yeah, with my group specifically, ITSM, as I mentioned, onto ITOM, ITAM would probably be the next logical step, just to get even more detail and information.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, we're looking at taking advantage of the ability for ServiceNow to integrate with different language models. So Air Force, how many of you have heard of Nipper GPT? Anyone?
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, cool. So Nipper GPT, we're looking to integrate with ServiceNow, as well as other language models that we can take advantage on the platform. Yeah. We saw some cool stuff with CSM, where you can actually get a sentiment readout from free text fields that people type in surveys, which was throwaway data before, but now you can actually take action on it, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we got like 6 minutes left, guys. Tauf, Sean, thank you guys so much for being here. Braving the weather. They both flew in, and so did I, but thanks for being here on short notice, and great story. Why don't we turn it over for questions? If you do have questions, please use one of the 2 microphones. The session is being recorded, so they just want to make sure they're capturing the questions in the recording.
We answered all.
Okay, yeah. Sounds like the bar is right around the corner, so
That's right.
Let's wrap it up. Okay. Well, if no questions, guys, thanks again. It's been a pleasure. Good luck with everything on AFRL, and you've got a great ServiceNow and partner ecosystem supporting you, so congratulations on your success.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.